All right. You ready, Buzzard? Have you hit the record button, sir?
Yeah, the green light is on.
Wait, it's green? It's not red?
I'm sorry, the red light is on.
There's a light?
Yeah. You have the green light because the red light is on. That's what I was trying to say.
Fuck, now
I'm so confused.
Yeah, so confused.
Hold on.
This
my head
traffic
hurts.
light does not work.
Yeah. Woo. Ooh. Third Degree, the Third Degree Net Podcast. Third Degree, the Third Degree Net Podcast. Third Degree, the Third Degree Net Podcast. Third Degree, the Third Degree Net Podcast.
Third Degree, the podcast, is brought to you by Soccer90.com. The new North Texas SC away jersey is now available at Soccer90 as the exclusive merchandise partner for NTSC. Soccer90 is the only place you can get North Texas SC gear. You can shop Soccer90.com to get your gear. Use the code Third Degree, get 20% off. Some exclusions apply, but that does not include the North Texas jersey or the FC Dallas jerseys with the new sponsors from last year, the home jerseys. Both those things are discounts should work. Check it out. Third Degree is a code, Soccer90.com.
Well, hello there, FC Dallas Curious fan. Welcome to another episode. We are now officially into the 200s of 201, episode 201 of Third Degree, the podcast. Hi, me, Peter, tagging along with, first off, Dan Crooke. Howdy, Dan.
Hello.
Hello, tally-ho to you, sir. And your hero, my hero, everybody's hero, Casita owner, Buzz Carrick. Come in, Buzz.
Hey, Peter, for a second I thought you were going caveman. Me, Peter, you, Dan.
I could do that, too.
No, it's not.
We could do that. Boys, congratulations. The season is off the snide. FC Dallas has won a game last Saturday, I guess it was, on a beautiful evening, followed up by the first drone show of the season. Dallas wins its game 3-1 over the LA Galaxy. Good stuff.
Yes, it is good stuff. The team came out a little flat at the beginning of the game and allowed LA to get the upper hand. But on the upside, this is a coach this year's buzzwords are, not to make a joke, mentality. So they showed some good mentality and came back and got the game and what in the end was an overall very comprehensive victory that I think pretty much everyone's going to be happy with. And it's actually difficult to find somebody that had a bad game, to be fair, for FC Dallas, because everybody played really well.
But Dan, if when Buzz uses his name in a saying, is that like talking in third person?
I think we can class it as that, yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's very hoity-toity of you, Buzz, to talk in. But
you know me, I'm so hoity-toity. Bouge. I've recently learned, Peter, that it's bouge. That's what we say now.
Oh,
apparently.
bouge.
Yeah, it's
okay.
bouge.
It's not bougie?
No, it's just bouge. And sometimes it's good and sometimes it's bad. I'm not really sure. You check with the kids. They'll let you know if bouge is good or bad. I think it's kind of bad, actually.
Okay.
So, wait, bouge like bougie or?
Yeah, presumably bourgeoisie is where it would come from, I would imagine.
Yeah, so much time has passed by now, Dan. So many years of eclipse that the shortening of bourgeoisie, to bougie is no longer good enough. Now you got to just say bouge.
Yeah, so bouge. And I first heard it when I was hanging out with my brother-in-law, my brother and his wife, my sister-in-law, and their kids over Christmas, and they were talking about somebody being so bouge that they ran into at the mall, and I thought, oh no, here we go. And now I've heard it.
Buzz is on his phone Googling bouge, trying to figure out.
Well, no, it's pretty obvious what it means, but I've since heard it several times, and so it's my phrase of the season so far is when something's bouge.
Aw, Dan.
Sorry, Dan.
You got Yelling at Clouds Dan already going less than a minute into the pod.
Yeah, Dan is not bouge either.
No, he's not.
No.
Hey, one of the things I was really kind of, we'll talk about the game here in a little bit, but one of the things I wanted to, well, do you want to talk about the game first? Or can I bring up my fascination with the attendance?
We can start with attendance, yeah.
Well, because here's the thing. For the first time ever that I can recall in this club's history, they have now opened a season with back-to-back sellouts. And And I think that is notable for a whole lot of reasons. And one of the things that I also began to do is to go back and dig into the numbers in terms, because at some point last year, we're like, man, they've had a lot of sellouts this year, and trying to calculate like how many sellouts last year versus how many times that stadium has had sellouts. And I think to the best of my ability to count the numbers, because it gets really wonky, because remember, Toyota Stadium / Pizza Hut Park has had different max attendances capacities over the years.
Of course.
It's hard to really solidify what has been considered a sellout. But if I'm just kind of counting based on my best understanding of it, they had 8 sellouts last season alone. Well, in the entirety of that entire facility's existence prior to last season, they had only had 9 sellouts combined. And so to now go into this season after 8 sellouts last season and to start off with 2 sellouts this season, that's a real turnaround for this club that I don't think is getting talked about enough, especially in the light of the fact that it's historically stereotyped as a half-full stadium for a lot of really good reasons, right? Because that's what it was for most of it.
Historically, yes.
Yeah, historically. But, look, things have changed, and there's something going on there. And I just wanted to take note and mention of that.
Yeah, I actually asked Nkosi Tafari about that this week. If they as the staff or the players sort of recognized what was happening around this team. And he got really animated, actually, because they as a group, the players, basically is what he's saying, they feel like it's because of the team and the club and the things they're doing of late. Like in the past, you might have said, oh, it's the Galaxy, it's because Beckham came in. But, that's not true anymore. Chicharito's not there anymore, or it wasn't there for this game. They don't have quite the luster that they used to. They're not the sexy LA team anymore, I would say, compared to LAFC. So the players, coach says, really feel like the combination of course, obviously, the new spend and the new marketing and the new stuff the club is doing, but also the things that the players are doing on the field, playing a relatively entertaining product, being involved in the community. And he said that they are really, really excited about what's happening here and feel like they're part of something that's really starting to dig in and take off in the community, and they really can feed off of the crowd, even if the crowd is not crazy 100% all supporter culture. Even if it is a Frisco crowd, it's still a massive, massive difference to be in front of a sold out audience. And they feed big time off of that vibe of that audience and off of the vibe of the increased noise that the supporter sections are making on the south end zone. So don't ever think that it doesn't affect the players, because it does. And they all, according to coach, they're all buying into what's happening here and excited about what's happening here. It's fun.
Yeah, I think if I'm doing my math correct, I was surprised to go back and find out that Dallas had actually had opening day sellouts at this stadium before, but it appears back in 2011 and 2012, their first games of the season were both sellouts. But until last season, I don't think they had ever had back-to-back sellout home games, which they did last season. And of course, as I said, this is the first time I can recall and pull up in the numbers that back-to-back for games 1 and 2. That's really impressive.
Yeah.
And
in season, if you had a 4th of July and maybe somebody famous coming in nearby 4th of July, that really would have been the only time you've gotten it before this. So it's pretty exciting. And obviously we'll see how it goes this season. But we started talking about this in the middle of last season when it became very noticeable. The whole organization had changed post Pepe money, post new VP of marketing, post embracing of this idea from the Hunts that on some level they needed to spend some more money and the budgets had gone up, and we started to see an impact, and it's only carried forward till now. I mean, I'm now going into the next bunch of games assuming we're going to see close to every game sold out. I mean, if you had 8 sold outs last year and you only have 17 home games, that's almost half. Mm-hmm. So it's like, there's a legit shot you might get to like an 80% sellout rate. I mean, maybe August we'll get some dog days, but man, it's an exciting time to be an FC Dallas fan across the whole organization. And knock on wood, I hope we're right that we're going to see this continued uptick attendance, it means I don't have to start buying a second ticket to all these games.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to something you mentioned earlier, the Galaxy are the team that Dallas has hosted the most times in games that were either sellouts or over 20,000 people. And that's part of what makes this math complicated, is because initially people forget Pizza Hut Park was the initial maximum attendance was 22.5. And so there were games in there where they got 20 or 21,000, but those weren't officially sellouts. It wasn't until after the Hall of Fame reconstruction that it was dropped down to 19,096. So there are while there may only be 9 previous sellouts, there are more games than that were close to maximum capacity, but just didn't ping the numbers. So it's interesting stuff, and again, kudos to the club for pulling that off. And it does make you wonder, if you can get these first 2 games to sell out, what's going to happen as we get into the season, and assuming the team's playing well.
Traditionally, these first games sometimes don't do very well because everyone's still in school. The weather can be quite cold.
Yeah,
the hype of the season's not really building yet because you're not really winning yet. I mean, Dallas is, not coming off. They're coming off of an improved season, but not like they were in the first in the West or anything. So you can't point at that kind of momentum. It really just, to me, it just feels like there's some momentum with this organization. A lot of things are being done a lot better, and they're seeing it pay off across the board, and it's exciting.
So, Dan, all the better when you got a full house and you play like that against the Galaxy in front of a full crowd as they did Saturday night.
Yeah, absolutely. It would kind of suck to fill the stadium and be crap.
Like last week?
That's just par for the course.
What was your favorite part of the game in the win, Dan?
Well, I had a nice keep yourself on your toes moment 20 seconds in when Martinez nearly gifts a goal. Honestly, the front 3 pressing, I thought that was great to see. Just how effective they were in winning back the ball immediately. Kind of in that before tiki-taka soccer got a bad rap, when it was 2 guys immediately press the ball when losing it, gain it back within 10 seconds. It was kind of reminiscent of that.
It was interesting because there was a kind of a vibe and a fire and a spirit to the team that was missing in the opening game, Buzz. And we do have to throw in here, this was LA's first game of the season. Remember, the game the week prior had been postponed, so they were coming into this dry. And I don't know how much we want to throw in there maybe affected them or not. But Dallas Nico clearly got some message across, because something was different between this week and last week.
Yeah, so clearly the first week the ball was moving too slowly. It was not moving across the back line. It was not building forward with any kind of pace or momentum. And in training, that was the key buzzword last week. Oh, gotta do it again. Sorry, that was the key phrase.
Person.
Yeah, the coach used last week was that mentality, that energy, that ball movement, that sharpness, and that's what they worked on in training. And it was pretty clear that that training focus on that mentality, that quick ball movement was effective. Now, they also changed 2 players in the triangle, but it wasn't just the build out. It was also this FC Dallas team is at its best when it. I'm not going to call it a counterattack team, because they don't sit in a low block and play over the top. They want to play. They want to be in the middle of the field, but they transition quickly. It's almost like a basketball team that transition quickly. People that are big basketball fans, when you turn it over and you go the other way with some urgency. Dallas is the same thing. Once they get it off you, they're not going to lollygag the ball around midfield. They're going to turn and go within a couple of passes and try and get in and get an opportunity. So that all stepped up. That all came back. It was, you could see it remarkably well, as Dan mentioned in the front. They don't press 99% of the time. They press on occasion. They'll wait for you to sort of make a mistake, and then they'll pounce on you quick and press and turn you over and go. And all that energy, all that up-tempo-ness was on display in this game. And Dallas is good when they do that. If they don't do that, they're bad. And that was what we saw in the first game. They were flat and they were unenergetic. They were inspired in terms of their, possession and movement and putting down the throttle. In this game, they had all that. And that's why I say, like, look, it's early, but that's a comprehensive win playing the way they want to play. That's what it's supposed to look like. That's how it's supposed to be done by this current group. And so it's nice to see them on track with the way they ended last year rather than the first game when it looked like they'd forgotten what they used to do.
Dan, any other insights you want to throw in there about that?
No, that was pretty sweet.
All right, so one of the things I was thinking about as I was watching the game, Buzz, is it was a little frightening at the beginning because the team was creating chances and not finishing them. There was that opportunity in a 26-minute where they had there were three of them in the box, and they had every opportunity on an even man or odd man breakaway, and they just couldn't even get a shot off. I think LA had turned the ball over or something, and they got it. And there was two or three of them in the box, and they just couldn't even get a shot off. And that was one of those things last season that we worried about, was this team's ability to overcome or take opportunities when the other team gives it to them. And so between that and the other opportunities they had created for themselves and they hadn't scored, so when LA goes on to score and take the 1-0 lead, it did have, everything worked out, right? It all worked out. The team won. They scored some goals, blah, blah, blah. But there was a period of time for the first 30 minutes or so where they're like, man, this is not fun.
Yeah, this is one of the things that I put in my negatives on the breakdown. When this team isn't creating opportunities, it's a problem. Now, I wasn't as worried because, as you say, in the first 30 minutes, there were 3 or 4 times where you felt like Jesus hit a post, he pushed one just wide. Well, the chances are coming. You don't like the on net percentage, and again, in the first week that was a problem. Now, still, this remains a problem overall, though, because in this game they also had 11 shots on target, just like the first game. So the chance opportunity is still a little low for the home team. If you're the home team, particularly this home team, you want to see 15, 16. They're not a team that is massive volume, but you want to see more than 11. The improvement, the thing to be excited about, was they got 4 of the shots on goal this time. So that's not quite 50% that we say that they need, but it's much closer. So there's a positivity trend to what is a thing that we're definitely still concerned about, which is A, the volume of chances, and B, the cleanliness of the finishing of those chances. So it definitely is still not perfect, but when you combine, the overall quality of everything else, it's hard to be too upset about that one particular element for me this early,
But here's the thing, and this is always my takeaway after a game like this, is because Dallas clearly is good, and again, I think you're right, Buzz. It's not sitting back and counterattacking. It's like pressing, winning the ball, and getting it goal. And in fact, I think if you go watch all 3 goals, they're all built or constructed out of Dallas winning the ball close to midfield and kind of transitioning very quickly.
Yep.
And so my question continues to be the one that I asked last season, which is, why would anybody not come, at the very least, whether it's at home or away, why would you not play Dallas as a mid to low block team? Why would you dare do what LA did Saturday night?
Yeah, the Dallas bread and butter, as you say, is this mid block, and they wait for you to come to them because they want space behind you. And then when you get to them, then they press, as Dan mentioned, which was really good, and they make you work hard to force them back down into their own end. Now, the 2 things that Dallas struggles against, and you're right, why would anyone not play a low block against Dallas? Because they stink at breaking it down. The other thing they're not so great at is what LA tried to do, which is high press. There are some teams even that do both, that do a high press, and then once you crack it, they drop hard back into a low block, and that's a double killer for Dallas. So you saw this week that while the ball movement was quicker than it was in the second game, both the first game and the second game, teams still tried to press them and make it difficult for them to pass out of the back. That's happened both games now as a component of what they do. Now, LA does not also include the low block part. So because LA wants to come out in midfield and play, they think they have a really good midfield. And Puig is a pretty good player, to be fair. When Dallas does turn them over, they have that room to make that quick break that they want to do. And that's where they're, again, at their best. So
yeah,
it's surprising that I think there's a certain caliber of team Maybe it's a certain price tag of a team that thinks we're going to play the way we want to play. We want to try and dictate the game. And in fact, in Nico's press conference today, he talked about that with Vancouver, not to get ahead of ourselves, because he said when we play Vancouver, if we're able to play the way we want to play, we do really well. And if we let them dictate the game, we do really poorly. So you can see why, just as an analogy, why some teams are like, I don't care that Dallas stinks at a low block. We're not very good at low blocking. We're good when we have the ball in midfield and try and do some things. So we're going to try and do that. It's just not as simple, I think, sometimes as we think it would be to just say, oh, we'll just low block them. It just means that when Dallas does run into a team that actually does low block, Minnesota is a good example of that. They can have problems.
Well, you said that Jesus was your man of the match, and I largely agree with that. But I thought Paxton had another stunningly good game Saturday night. And by the way, I also want to tell Paxton how much I appreciate he's gone back to babyface Paxton. I like that. I prefer my Paxton Pomykal babyfaced, not with the mustache. That's how I feel about it.
Yeah, as I mentioned with Jesus, it wasn't the 2 goals, which is certainly part of it. It was the fact that he played a higher line up front where he's supposed to be. Now, he wasn't high 9, but he also wasn't in between the center backs. You know what I mean? He was where he was supposed to be, and he didn't come back looking for the ball. And the first week, he did a lot of gesturing and what we call, the young Jesus of several years ago, where he would be mad at his teammates and make it clear. His body language got way better in this game, too, and it looked more like Jesus of last season. So that's why he was my man of the match. You're right, Paxton was excellent again. Coach said they specifically put Paxton on the side that Puig was on to try and negate that, and that Paxton was the biggest additional factor into how they were able to shut that guy down beyond just their normal defensive shape. So credit to Paxton, who also, yes, had an excellent game. But honestly, you could go through almost the whole team and be like, everybody had really good games. In the end, it was Jesus for me because of the positioning change from week 1 and the mentality change from week 1.
Yeah, I hope everybody picked up on the fact I think it's the 3rd goal, Paxton steals the ball off Puig, or Puig, or however it's pronounced.
Puig,
yeah. Paxton, our Paxton Pomykal, Dallas kid, steals the ball off a Barcelona academy product and turns that into a really beautiful finish. The 1-2, he gets the ball back and then plays it. Man, that pass to Jesus in the box is so damn sexy. But I love more the fact that he actually stole it off that kid's foot. I just thought that was great, and I hope everybody picked up on that.
I hope so too, because Paxton had a tremendous game, and their best player was taken out of the game by him. So again, Paxton, 2-way game. Listen, dial this back to our conversation last week, though, right? People see Paxton play this way, and they go, "Oh, make him a 6." No.
Yes,
this is 2-way Paxton. That play right there is a 2-way 8. Gets the ball off a guy, plays the pass into the box. Right? That's the box-to-box player, 2-way player. That's what you want. That's why he's an 8.
Yes,
not a 6. Yeah.
I'm so glad you said that. Thank you. Buzz.
Sometimes we talk about stuff because it's fun to talk about, Peter, not because we think it's going to be the answer.
Well, no, you're right. You're right. But that is the definitive example of what differentiates him between being an 8 and a 6, and that's why you don't want him to be a 6. So thank you for saying that. All right. Did Edwin Cerrillo have a good game? Yes or no?
Yes. Yeah. You want me to expound on that?
I was starting to count up the number of turnovers he was committing in midfield, Buzz, and I was getting a little concerned there for a while.
Yeah, well, you have to remember that everything we talk about always has context, right? So Edwin Cerrillo is not Busquets, right?
Well, of
Edwin
course
Cerrillo is
not.
a 21-year-old kid. So,
and I'm not Howard Stern.
Yeah, right. So that's the thing is, right, in the context of FC Dallas and this game, Nkosi and Edwin came in, and the triangle got better because those two guys cover more ground. There was more familiarity there. There was more cohesion. And that thing that in game 1 was causing me to have heart palpitations, in this game I was confident and solid with. Yes, he made some turnovers that you don't like. But on the other side of the coin, it's because he was being really aggressive, trying to be a progressive passer, which is the part of his game we want him to progress in. He was 4 for 7 on long passes, which is a pretty good rate on a long pass, right? And that's a higher number than he usually attempts. He had 5 progressive passes into the final third or whatever, which was third best on the team. And he had 22 carries. So while you're not going to look at him and go, oh, he's João Paulo with Seattle. No, he's not even some of the great Carlos Gruezo type passers that we've had here in the past from that position. But from where Edwin was to where we want him to be, this is a positive performance, and it's a positive direction that clearly he's trying to do more than what he did last season. So I'm not going to tell you that like in a vacuum, it's a look at his pure numbers and go, oh, that's a good game. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that in the context of game 1 to game 2, and in context of his last year and how we want him to be better, this was a good game.
You might want to throw in that beautiful ball over the top for the first goal.
Oh,
that too specifically, yes. Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Very good. So
that specific pass, by the way, is a pass that they've been working on in training. That ball from a midfielder that drops right over the back line between the center back and the outside back. It's the Martinez Farfan gap on the FC Dallas side, but against the opposition, it's right there, that over the shoulder, making the center back pull out towards you or making the outside back come in towards you. That's a ball that they've been working on for a couple of weeks. So it's a specific payoff of a thing they've been working.
Did Areola foul that guy when he got the ball, won the ball to cross it back to Velasco?
I don't know. There's definitely some body contact. Whether it's a foul or not is probably depending on which team you like.
It was a tight call, probably shoulder to shoulder. I loved it.
Yeah.
Okay, so at this point, after 2 games of sampling their work, Cerrillo greater than Facundo.
I think that's going to depend. I was going to talk about this in the training report, but Facundo has a knock. So he was held out of training this week for a day or maybe more. I only saw the 1 day. He's not injured. It's early season maintenance on a guy who's not young, essentially. So it's possible coming out of game 1 that he got I think it's a little hip issue or something, or maybe he got a Charlie horse on his leg, something like that. So he was subbed out of that first game and maybe couldn't do as much when he came into this game. I think those guys are so close, and this is also true of the 3 center backs. I think those positions are going to alternate all the time this season based on tactical matchups, unless somebody gets in really hot form. I would always tell you that I want Edwin first because of his age question. Right. So I'm always going to vote Edwin, but I don't think that I could say definitively that Edwin's now got this locked down by any means. Facundo is still a solid player, and Edwin's not far enough past him to make that the case.
Okay. Continue on the attacking side of the field. After 2 games, where is your temperature on Velasco and Lletget? Because my sense is both of those guys, maybe less so this week than last week, are still a little bit too quiet for my liking.
I want to hear what Dan says about Velasco, but I think that Lletget, I thought the same thing when I watched the game. He was quiet, but then I went and actually looked at his stats, and he wasn't. He was phenomenal. He was 91% passing, which led the team. He had 4 shot-creating actions, led the team. 8 progressive passes, led the team. He was 3 for 3 on dribbles, led the team. Okay. 4 passes into the box, which led the team. He had 4 progressive carries, which was second. And all of his progressive carries were into the final third, which was first on the team. So he was actually spectacularly good. You just didn't notice it for some reason. And I'm the same way. I think maybe it's because he maybe had a flat first half, and then second half woke up, or maybe we have really high standards or something, but pure numbers wise, he was actually really, really good. And then I want to hear Dan on Velasco.
The only thing that bugged me about Velasco's game was he got a little bit not greedy. He was trying to do a little bit too much with the ball at times. There was a shot he could have laid. There was that time he ran through on a ball over the top down the left. It was called offside eventually, but he tries to take the low percentage shot instead of just squaring it to Areola. There was something similar that happened in the box with Jesus, I recall.
And he was somewhat liable in the LA goal too, because he didn't track that guy. He kind of just gave up on him as he got to the box.
I didn't remember that part too well, but yeah, no. I mean, considering I only watched the game like 2 hours ago, I should probably remember that. No, I mean, I thought he was fine. Lletget, I know Buzz mentioned he kind of disappeared in part. I think maybe that was what I can't remember. But I thought he was pretty visible. He was in a more of a recessive role, letting Paxton do more, I thought, which maybe made him less visible, especially because the way the midfield three played was a lot more of a kind of flatter than we see it with Edwin kind of getting to be aggressive in going forward beyond Paxton and Lletget, but also dropping back, so that Lletget kind of in turn becomes the stay-at-home cover option.
All right. I don't want to be. I want to focus on the fact that this was a fun game. The guys won. They scored 3 goals. That was great. But I want to pick up on a thread from last season, what we talked about a lot, which was because this team is not one that creates a ton of chances. It's all about being efficient when they get them and finishing their chances. And what I found was a little bit interesting about this particular game, in my notes, I have multiple notes of them not converting the chances. I mentioned the one earlier where I think where LA turned the ball over and 3 of them were literally standing in the box and they couldn't even get a shot off. But I've got 5 or 6 different mentions here, of a 3-on-3 break. Jesus has a bad shot. Areola has an open net with Bond out, and he hits it wide left. I think Dan just mentioned the one where Velasco gets into the box and messes up the pass. And I think if you have to look at the game critically and fairly, though that may be the one takeaway from this, Buzz, that I hope that's the thing that they correct is finishing the chances that they are creating, because again, that was kind of the thing that was missing last year, is even creating the chances.
Yeah, I think a little bit of that I'm hoping is sort of some early seasons stuff. There was a bite from, I think it was from Paul, about the chemistry, or maybe in Jesus. The chemistry and the cohesion on the front three is really good. So I'll take them at their word at that. I don't see a lot of disconnect in training. That's always a sign I look for, right? If guys are yelling and gesturing in training, that can be a bad sign. But they all seem to be pretty on par and on the same page as far as that goes. Just in general terms, under Nico so far, for now a little over a year, we're just seeing that this team, the way his team plays, it's not going to be a high volume shot machine. Part of that I think is because Jesus being a false 9, he's got a tendency to be willing to pass. He's not a black hole, right? The ball doesn't go in there and he's firing it no matter what. Like, no offense, like Maxi Urruti might have been. Maxi Urruti needed 25 shots a game to get 1 goal. Jesus needs like 3 shots to get a goal. So, there's just not going to be this volume of blasted balls. If you go look at the shot selection, in fact, from this game, I think there were only 3 shots from outside the box, and one of those was a goal. So, they're doing the right things, and they're with this coach, they're willing to hold on to the ball to get a better percentage opportunity, which is okay, right? We've talked about that with this team. The good shot, the ratio of shots on net to shots is what we want to see, near 50%. And we want to see a relatively good finishing of the goal rate. They're not as concerned with a high volume of opportunities. So I think some of that we're just going to have to get used to. Now, I want more than 11 at home. 11's a good road number, not a good home number. So, it's definitely long-term a thing we want to keep an eye on, of course, because there were some times last year where the percentage fell off, and then we're like, uh-oh. But then it would come back at a game or two later, and it was, okay, we're fine again. So, first game, again, 1 of 11 on goal. That's not so good. Second game, 4 of 11 on goal. Oh, we feel better, So it's always going to be like that with this team, I think, particularly because, we're not going to go on the road. And think about last year, right? Coach Estevez plays a different way on the road. They go more of a load block even. They really want to grind it out and kill the game till like 60, 65, 70 minutes and then open it up and go. So we'll see how that pays off this year, whether that mentality is the same or whether they try and dictate a little bit more. Because he said they want to dictate to Vancouver. They don't want to let Vancouver play the way that Vancouver wants to play. And they got a Champions League game tonight. We're recording Wednesday night, and Vancouver's playing tonight. So maybe we'll see a worn-out team, or we might see some reserves or some rotation. Be interesting to see. But
is their game at home or on the road?
I did not look that up. I don't remember.
I think they're at home.
Oh, okay, there you go.
Yeah. I was hoping maybe they get to play in a place with a random tree behind the goal. That would be cool, or a bush or something.
Yeah.
Okay,
Hey,
yes.
The next time you do a soccer trip to the UK, check out St Albans City. They have a tree nestled in the corner of their ground.
All right, I will check that out. I like that. I like foliage around my soccer pitch. I think that's fun. That's a nice accoutrement to the game. All right, so we've talked about the attack. We've talked about the midfield. Dan, since you are our resident center back, why don't you talk about Nkosi Tafari's debut for this season? How did you like him? How'd you like them apples?
Loved it. I think you kind of wanted to see a little bit more pace in the defense, a little more urgency, someone who can not only can attack the ball, but someone who is more than happy to attack the ball. Let me grab the stats that were highlighted because he did have a phenomenal stat line. It was just kind of Ibeagha, obviously. Ibeagha and Martinez together is a bad combination. You throw in how awful / injured Twumasi was in that first game, and it was just the perfect storm. But yeah, led Dallas in clearances, possession gained, 50 of 59 on passing. He won all six aerial drills, all six on the ground. Absolutely just fantastic. You want that dependency. That's what Matt Hedges brought, right? That you knew, hey, he's back. He's got this.
And then, so I guess the Martinez part of it, we're all still a little dodgy and iffy on, though. I mean, are we going to see
dodgy
Ibeagha?
and iffy is Martinez.
Well, right. But are we now going to see a different duo in the next game? Is he going to try that out, or is this now Martinez and Tafari moving forward?
Well, I thought Martinez fell off hard late in that game, in particular, and they had to go to 3 center backs. By the way, again, another tactical shape that Dallas will be, this is 2 straight games where we've seen a different tactical shape adapted. Game 1, it was the second striker. This time it was a third center back, to help tighten up those gaps. And in particular, they were going at the Dallas left again, Martinez and Farfan. Strangely, they were Efrain Alvarez was giving him fits. So they brought in Ibeagha to try and shore that up a little bit, partially because LA went to 2 strikers. So that was part of that adaptation. I was worried about Martinez at the end of that game. And I specifically asked Coach, and he's mentioned, that he felt probably some of that was a little bit of, just second game fatigue, and part of it was the 2 strikers. Part of it was lots of factors. But again, I don't love that player per se. Now, at the same time, there's a weakness in Nkosi in terms of passing out. The build is not phenomenal. That's something Martinez does a little bit better. And on the goal specifically, Nkosi let his striker go ahead of him because that was into offsides position, which is perfectly fine. But then when Alvarez came down there right and brought him back into position, the guy had drifted between Martinez and him, and they didn't close together fast enough on that guy that was previously had been offside, but now wasn't. And the guy was able to score easily. So some of that is what I don't like about how often this coach is rotating bodies in spring, was we're not getting a good cohesion with whoever's going to be your 2 main guys. And to follow that up in training on Tuesday, Nkosi and Ibeagha played the whole game, the whole session as a partnership. Now, does that mean I think that those 2 guys are going to start together? I don't think so. I think that this coach is continuing to try and get all 3 of those guys used to playing with each other in different combos so that he can use those combos as he would like. So that means that you're going to be slow in terms of, if you had just 2 starters, you'd have those guys getting on the same page already. Well, since you have 3 and you're going to be mixing them up, it's going to take longer. And I think that's a little bit what you're seeing in terms of disconnect sometimes between those guys. Would it be interesting to see Nkosi and Ibe together? Sure, I'd love to see it. I've seen the other 2 combos now. Wouldn't mind seeing the third one and see what I think. But I think those 3 guys are going to change a lot based on tactics, like who you're playing, what kind of striker it is, what kind of, do they press, do they drop off, how much time do I have on the ball, am I need to be physical, do I need to be more mercurial? That there's going to be a lot of tactical shifting in that those three center backs in terms of how he uses them this year.
I hope that Mr. Farfan and his family and friends take it as a compliment that we don't spend a lot of time talking about him, but he's been solidly fantastic for the team since his being acquired, and he was good in this game again. But in fairness to Ema, who last week we were all kind of crapping on because he didn't have a good game, he was significantly better in this game, Buzz, and I don't know how much to chalk that up to him just being healthier or, taking some direction and actually doing some of the things that we kind of feel like the team needs.
Yeah, he was much, much better in this game. I'm not saying that he's going to be an all-star. I'm just saying, like, if you play every game this season like that, that will be perfectly acceptable. That'll be fine. I think a lot of it is just physical health. I know he had 2 knocks in the preseason, and one of them was back-ish related, and that can really limit your mobility, make you very stiff. And like I said last week, I was amazed he started game 1 because of how stiff he looked. But then this week in training and then going into this game, he looked so much better. And now that's the player that we are used to. Now that we still want Giovanni to press him and have either one of those guys progress forward and become an even better player than Ema was in this game, absolutely we do. That's the reason why you have 2 players that are starter capable in a position. But if you just get this out of Ema every game, that will be perfectly fine. It'll be a good season because he was much, much better in this game than the previous game.
I didn't pick up that Giovanni Jesus subbed in for Farfan, not Ema.
Yeah, and they put Ema on the left. Yeah. That it did make me wonder if maybe that Farfan got a knock of some kind in that game because he got beat for pace twice. Yeah.
He was getting treated behind the touchline.
There you go.
For what looked like cramp. They were just stretching him out.
There you go.
So it may have been a case of he was going in for Ema and then, Farfan goes down and may as well just change it up at that point.
Yeah, Farfan had an immense workload in the game because, as I said, they were targeting that side. So he was up and down. And because Alan Vlaska plays a false wing, so he plays inside a lot, and that makes Farfan have to work the whole line because Paul doesn't do that on the right. Paul plays more traditional, and so Ema only has to work underneath Paul. He doesn't have to do the whole thing. So Farfan tends to work more, and obviously in this game, I think he just ran out of steam. Again, it's early. People are still getting fit for 90 minutes. So yeah, they moved Twumasi over on the left, which tells you something about Giovanni Jesus, Dan, that maybe he's not as comfortable over there for some reason, and maybe he'll be a right side only kind of guy. Be interesting to watch that.
Yeah. Hey, I just want to give a big shout out and a big thumbs up to Obrian for it taking him only 15 minutes to get a yellow card into the season for him. So kudos to Obrian.
Yeah, he is what he is at this point. They got to keep. This is a guy he's on the roster. Keep him involved. There's a potential use for him. Don't bag him too much. Ain't gonna start. That's fine.
More cowbells.
Yeah.
All right. Well, it was overall a really good result. Oh wait, we probably should talk about Mr. Paz. Buzz. After 2 games, do we feel like he's still the goods? Any concerns or thoughts there?
Well, the only concern we always have is his feet aren't great. There's been a couple opportunities where someone's pressed and caught the center back not ready, and they go back to pause right in front of the net, and that's not good. He's had a couple fluff passes out of the back, but if that's his one weakness, because that save was a doozy that he made, he's everything we thought he was last year. So
very good. All right. First off, did anybody pick up on the somewhat cool little detail? And at first it bothered me because I thought, well, that's just stupid. Why would you go away from the tradition, which is the chimes, the chime sound they play when they make an announcement on the PA system.
I missed it.
Did you guys notice
the Mario ones, right?
Yeah, they did the 8-bit sound effect of Mario or whatever. I can't remember specifically what the sound was, and it was because it was 80s theme night. And I thought, okay. Yeah. I will let that go, and I thought that was a cool little detail.
Sure. I thought it sounded better than the normal one.
You don't like the chimes?
Nah, I'd just keep that.
I will not tell Mr. Andy Swift you do not like the chimes because if I remember correctly, that was his idea many, many years ago.
It's okay. He's had good ideas since.
Times have changed, old man. Yeah.
So, well, it's funny to me that Dan prefers the thing from the 80s, which is but anyway, so I was thinking about that, and I was enjoying the video of the drone show, which again, holy crap, that is a stunning technical achievement. Have you seen the video of the drone show performance?
Yeah.
So have you seen it, Dan?
Yeah, I retweeted it from the drone company.
Yeah, so Buzz, if you saw the one last year, Dan, am I wrong in saying this one is 2-3x more complicated and animated than the one last year?
Yeah, so last year they had, I think it was like 150 drones. This year it would have been easily 300. Like when they did the FC Dallas logo at the end, the detail, and they did the lettering, they did everything. That they had the quantity to go into that much detail.
I will go watch it after this.
Yeah, the drone show stuff is really cool, and it's all little images from the 80s, and as Dan says, there's so many drones, the amount of detail they can do is pretty amazing. But the thing that it started getting me thinking about this season, and the fact that the club has done the new jersey, the Burn Baby Burn jersey, and they've really kind of bought into the new Mitchell and Ness white satin jacket with the Islamico brand on it, all of this stuff. And then the other day I was at my Sunday League game, and I was walking by where everybody was having a beer, and there was a guy at the table, a random guy at the table, with what I assume is now one of the new white T-shirts you can buy that has the vomit flame horse head that's on the nape of the neck of the jersey, but in big, like large, like
Nice.
like
Yeah.
6 by 8 by 10 or something across the back of the shirt.
Well, that
And of course,
explains something then, because when we first saw the kid, I said to Andrew at Soccer 90, man, I'd like to get that on a T-shirt. He goes, huh? And they didn't say anything.
Well,
No,
they must be selling it now, and
Yeah.
because that branding means so much to me personally. I practically started to cry because it was just so beautiful to see a random guy at a soccer thing wearing a Dallas Burn related piece of branding. I thought that was great, and in looking at that and thinking about the jersey and thinking about the other thing that always has historically driven me nuts is because this team has no nickname. And we've talked about this a lot over the years, which
Sure.
is it has driven me personally nuts to hear people like Mark Followell or anybody having to commentate on this team locked into the idea of calling it repeatedly FC Dallas. Because it's like saying Mr. Buzz Daniel Carrick III. It's like nobody refers to football teams or soccer teams in the world in the manner that we've now kind of placed on Dallas. And that's because they didn't give the team a nickname, right? They tried hoops. They threw hoops away. People have thrown out Los Toros. I did the Huntsman thing for a long time, which I still love. But it dawned on me, and I'm getting somewhere with this. So
Yep.
stick with me, because
I'm here.
I'm officially making a pitch here, guys. I'm suggesting the idea of what if we as the fan base just said, screw it, let's just start calling them the Burn again.
You down for that?
We can do that for sure. I like it.
Seriously.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying call them FC Dallas Burn, but if you need a nickname, let's just go back to the Burn. Everybody loves the Burn, right?
Yeah.
It's totally at its more popular today than it probably was back in 1997, right?
Yeah.
And everybody loves the branding has gone from being ridiculous and stupid and silly to something now people seem to like and love. So why don't we just start calling them the Burn again?
Well, the team's certainly doing a whole lot of Burn stuff this year.
Yes.
So, they seem to like it too. So, as a slang nickname goes, I think it's a great idea. I'm on board. We could do that.
Dan?
All right, I'll put it in the next recap.
Well, no, do you like the idea? Am I being stupid?
No, I think
No.
you're spot on. I think that's a great nod to the past. A nickname doesn't need to be in the team's formal name, even
Right.
in the Americanized style.
I think this year in particular, it's probably a good idea because, and I do believe there's a tie in here with the club, and the Apple TV is because we're seeing all this, original six stuff and the branding dates on the transitions and such like that. There's obviously a play to the age of in Major League Soccer. The club is obviously embracing the early burn days. They're throwing around the 1996 stuff. So I think it's a good idea to roll with the original nickname as a unofficial nickname. It certainly works as well as anything else we've come up with. They've always said from the beginning of the FC Dallas brand is they wanted something to happen organically. They wanted the fans to sort of decide this question. And maybe it's kind of the love for this old brand. Maybe it's kind of showing that that's where the fans' heart is. And maybe that's what we'll see more of going forward. That would be nice.
Yeah. I just saw the dude in the t-shirt with the head and the vomit flame on it. And I thought, holy crap, that's it. Just call him the Burn.
Yeah, and I think we should officially call it Vomit Flame from here on out. I think that's a good plan.
Isn't that what we always called it?
That's what you've always called it.
Oh.
I don't know what I call it. Just the flame, the horse flame, I think I usually say. But.
Do you remember back in the day when they first unveiled the branding, how you tried to explain what the Dallas Burn logo looked like? It was like, it's a horse rearing up, but it doesn't have legs. It has lightning bolts for legs. Yeah. Oh, and it's throwing up fire.
And one version of it has wings and the other doesn't.
Right. And then there's the head-on version that has wings coming out of its side of its head. Yes.
Yeah.
It was fantastic. All right. Well, so we're all in agreement. The official nickname of the FC Dallas, at least in terms of Third Degree is concerned, is now back to the Burn.
For this season for sure, and we'll see if it catches on.
Well, it won't catch on if we don't commit to it, Buzz.
No, I'm committed for the season. I'm in. Let's do it.
Okay. Dan?
Go Burn.
All right. Can you say that maybe a little more enthusiastically, please?
Well, I didn't want it to sound like I was telling you to go get a sunburn or something. That'd be bad.
Okay. So they have Vancouver coming up next, and it's a day game, is it not? Isn't it early, like 4 in the afternoon or something?
Weirdly, yeah.
Yeah. So they're the early game, and it's only on Apple TV. Once again, I guess we don't know if it's one of the free games or not. We can talk about that here in a second because that's all come to clarity. So any change in the lineup or anything you anticipate that we haven't already discussed?
Well, the MLS Soccer website says MLS Season Pass on it, so probably not free. So the questions are the obvious ones, right? The front line is set. Lletget, Paxton, we know that. The Facundo Edwin question, I think because Facundo had that mid-week knock, why not stick with Edwin? He had a pretty solid game. That's going to be fine. Farfan, as long as he's not hurt, it's Farfan. I think Twumasi held on enough that Giovanni won't start again yet. Pauses. It's really just those two center backs, I think. Are you going to see Martinez Nkosi, who based on that game, by my usual standards, I would say, yes, you carry those guys forward. Does this coach want to see that third combo, though? Does he want to see the Nkosi Ibi combo? That's the question. Because, based purely on result, it should not change. It should be Martinez Nkosi. We'll see. We're going to find out. This is a coach that does like to tweak tactics. He is going on the road. That's in the past. Those are environments where we would see Facundo over Edwin. Again, the Facundo knock makes you think probably bench with Edwin starting, but if he recovers great, that could be flip-flopped easily too. So those are your spots. That triangle is still the thing. That's the question.
Okay. By the way, Vancouver comes into this game defeated. They've not won a game yet. They lost their opener at home to Salt Lake 2-1, and they lost last weekend in San Jose by the same score. So they're minus. Let's see, they've minus 2 on the goal differential.
They play a Christmas tree. It's a 4-3-2-1, but coaches pointed out that the last 2 times Dallas has played them, they've changed their tactics just to play Dallas. So I don't think you can assume that they're going to play the same way. You might see them go to 3 like they did once before. That'll be an interesting question from them, what they're going to do.
I think it's going to be interesting just to see what Dallas has to deal with. The 2 games so far, they've scored against RSL in the 24th minute. They scored against San Jose in the 17th minute. Both times they conceded around the 70th minute. They are a team that is apparently racing to a lead and very quickly running out of gas and getting hammered in the last 20 minutes.
Yep.
Well, all right. So, and plus they have the head coach that looks like the random guy that runs or works at a hole-in-the-wall
Fanny
pizzeria, right?
Sartini,
Yeah. Right?
But
He's a good dude.
I mean, it'll be interesting to see what team they play tonight. That's going to have a
Who do they
big
play
effect.
tonight? I should probably hold on. Let me look. Let me look that up. Who do they play tonight? I have it right here.
Real
Club
España.
Deportivo España.
Okay. All right. Very good.
Of Honduras.
Yes. All right. What kind of animal will run on the field of that game?
Well, it's in Vancouver, so if anything, a deer. But
Yeah,
Beaver.
a
Or a
beaver,
moose.
a beaver or a moose. How
Yeah.
awesome
An
would
elk.
it be if either one of those things
It'll be a
walked onto
beaver
the-
riding on the back of a moose.
hey, Rocky, watch me pull this rabbit out of a hat.
Rocky and Bullwinkle.
Yeah.
That would be great. All right, so here we go. The Burn are back in Vancouver this weekend. So there you go. Anything from training else, Buzz? I know
Yeah.
you went to training yesterday or today or whatever, and you want to talk about?
Well, can we talk about the new North Texas signing first? Because he's in the context of the training. Is that
Sure.
cool? Okay, so this is ordinarily a North Texas signing we wouldn't actually make a big deal about, but this kid named Alejandro Uzura has been on my homegrown list for a couple of years now. He was obviously not at the top of it because he's still a U17. He's 16 years old just now. So it's a big deal that they signed him because the word on the street is that he's got one of these new hybrid deals and he'll be the first player to actually have one, if that's true. And the club press release said that they've signed him for 2023 with no other mention of options or additional years or anything. And so those two things lead me to believe that, yes, he does have a hybrid deal because a kid of this level of talent, this is the level of talent of Paxton or Cap. This is that kind of player, top tier of your academy, right? But he's 16. So if he has this new hybrid deal, the idea, they were going to give this to Antonio Ferreira until he had a monster camp, and they just gave him a regular homegrown deal instead. So basically what it does is it's designed to have a couple of seasons at North Texas and then transition into an actual regular homegrown contract. This falls in line with what the dichotomy this club has, which is that they want to develop kids. They want to sign these kids out as their teenagers, but they want to sign them to North Texas, not FC Dallas. They don't want to chew up roster spots. They don't want 8 dudes hanging around watching training and not training and all that kind of stuff, right? This is the new sort of progression.
But it's also not the $24,000
Right.
Texas deal.
Probably. They don't put out any numbers, but it shouldn't be like, because when they try and get these kids out of North Texas that are not these next tier guys, these not these homegrown type guys, it's like it's 15, it's 20. You know, a kid this good's not giving up college for that. So it must be something else. And you can understand that this is true, that he's as talented as I say he is, because he's been in first team training a bunch this spring and was in there again this week. And coach said, even last week before they announced the signing, coach told me he's going to be there a lot. He's the next guy they're progressing through. He plays as an 8. He plays the position they just traded Brandon. He plays the position we talk about. There's a tiny bit of a hole, but they're going to use kids to progress through in that spot in training. There's some other guys that are going to get these chances too, but he's going to get the bulk of them because he's the next guy being groomed. You just don't want him to wait 4 years like Paxton did before he plays on your senior roster because he's 16. He's not going to play for a while in this kind of position. So this is a sign and stash kind of deal. So that's why it's really interesting beyond the fact that the kid is young and talented.
Is he a big dude?
Right now he's probably 5'10". I think he'll get close to 6 feet. He's tall-ish and lanky. He plays like Chris Kappas, if that helps you.
Yep.
He's a box-to-box 8, that kind of guy. Really good at sniffing and winning the ball back. Really good at controlling the pace of the game. Slow it down, speed it up, move it around. Just a solid box-to-box guy, and something this club produces a lot of, but he's particularly good. So, Ali Uzura. Training report-wise, he was there. Julian Isone's there again. As near as I could tell, Julian's there with the first team every day. You know, he's another higher grade and older. We'll be talking about him a lot between now and May.
You know why that is, Buzz? Because if you don't, he'll beat everybody up.
He is almost 6'7". But we're going to be talking about him a lot over the next couple months. So we'll skip over him for today because he's just there as a training player. Because of the Facundo knock, they brought Carl Sante up from North Texas, who's the young Haitian six that they got from Minnesota United, who just got called up for the Haitian national team. So again, another talented player for the future. He came in and looked fine. A lot of the work this week was on beating a press, right? We just saw LA try and press them. We know that that's the thing they're not so great at, so they worked on that a whole bunch. Consequently, Nkosi Tafari had a really bad day.
Oh,
I was so hyped about him coming off of the game, and then I watched training. I'm like, shit, his ass is going to get benched. He was awful. Granted, it was just on a Tuesday, and it's just one day, and it was a day of like the entire day was like press center backs. It was just really rough for him. Hopefully, it's just a bad moment, and he'll be fine because I thought he was great in the game. And that's really all from training. There wasn't a whole lot of tremendous, because now they're kind of in form. They kind of know what they're doing. They kind of got the pieces in place. Jesus Jimenez was gone. He's up in Toronto working on his visa, as you know, and Dan knows for sure from experience. His appointment was for Monday, so I imagine now he's just waiting around to get it. So there's probably basically like 99% chance there's no way he's playing this weekend. He would have to get back in time to train and then go back up there with them. That's not happening because it usually takes at least a week to get these things. Sometimes it can be longer. So that's your training report.
I love it. And you know what? It dawned on me because last week we talked about our concern about having somebody to fill in that hole in the midfield.
Yep.
And you mentioned Chris Kappas. Boy, wouldn't he be nice to have these days? And I wonder what his availability might be.
Well, based on his age and the fact that he has signed another pro contract, he is available. You don't have to worry about the territory rule anymore with him. So if you wanted him and he wanted to come back, you could go sign him. He's still at Brøndby, I think it is, where he's at. He starts some, he comes off the bench some. You know, I'm not really sure where his mind's at. I haven't talked to him in a bit, or his people in a bit to really know. Obviously, he'd be outstanding to have back. You know, whether he would want to come back and whether the club wouldn't be like, you know what, we got like 5 kids coming through that are going to be just like that. So I still think he's a spectacular player. You know, he's been, in terms of what he looked like when he left the academy, he's my favorite player coming out of the academy. I feel bad that he hasn't quite gotten the right opportunities, you know.
Yeah.
But I don't think, obviously, big picture, I don't think he's as good as Weston is. But I didn't see Weston as he came out of the academy.
It was just a thought. You mentioned his name.
Yeah.
And I know, yeah.
Well, I mentioned it in the context of comparing Ali to him. That's why I mentioned him last week, too.
Yeah.
It was like Ali compares to him for me. And there's some other kids, too, that have some different profiles that can play in that spot. You know, there's Anthony
Ramirez.
Golly, wow, did I brain fart on that? Anthony Ramirez, Diego Hernandez, Santi Ferreira plays that same spot. A kid named Jared Salazar, who's a U17 also. Dylan Lacey, who's a U19. There's some other kids. Andre Costa, who's actually a North Texas player. You'll see those other guys will all come in with that spot. Ali is just the top one right now in terms of that profile.
Okay. Very good. All right. Well, I think we made a lot of progress this week. We rebranded the club. We talked about a victory, our first victory of the year. We got lots done today, guys. Very good. Anything else? Going once, going twice. Dan?
Nah, I'm good.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Always good to speak with you and spend the time. Buzz?
Well, North Texas Soccer Club has 2 preseason games left, so they're about a week and a half, I think, out from their first game. We'll probably have a preview of who their big players are at some point. But, you know, if you get a chance, go watch them play, too. They're also really good.
Yes. All right. Thank you, sir.
Third Degree, the podcast, has been brought to you by Soccer90.com. Soccer90.com is the exclusive merchandise provider for North Texas Soccer Club. The brand new jerseys are available for NTSC. You can get them at Soccer90. You can get them at Soccer90.com. You can use our code, Third Degree, 20% off at checkout. Some exclusions apply. But we've hooked you up. The North Texas Soccer Club is not one of those exclusions. You can get those jerseys with our discount. The new sponsor on last year's home jersey, that also uses our discount, Third Degree, 20% off, Soccer90.com. Get the stuff.
I would like to congratulate Austin FC for their initiation into CONCACAF. Not only is it funny, but we understand we've all been there before many, many years ago. So it's always fun to watch the youngins get initiated into their first CONCACAF experience. But My God, that was hilarious. So there you go. All right, Buzz, thank you very much, my friend.
Oh, you're welcome, and thank you as always for hosting.
Yes, as happy to do it. All right, thank you, FC Dallas Curious Fan. We will speak to you next week on yet another episode of Third Degree, the podcast about the burn.
The burn. Say it now. The burn.
Third Degree, the Third Degree Net Podcast. Third Degree, the Third Degree Net Podcast. Third Degree, the Third Degree Net Podcast. Third Degree, the Third Degree Net Podcast.